Good evening, everyone. We're glad to be back this evening with you. My name is Glenda Woolfolk, and I'm the CEO, founder, and president of the No Sister Left Behind nonprofit organization.
And I'm Linda Factory, and I'm the treasurer of the No Sister Left Behind organization, and I am the timekeeper for the evening. Good to be here.
Yes, yes. Hi, I'm Pam Shug Walker. I'm the vice president of No Sister Left Behind, and I'm happy to be here tonight, and I'm happy that you're here also.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are excited because we have just completed our first health fair at MLK Park, and it was a success. And we're so happy about that. We want to thank all of those that attended and all of our volunteers that came out and worked and
Yes.
serviced our community in a grand way. I'm so thankful for that. We're thankful for Marie Ruffin and her team from Kerr Medical Center that came out and administered the vaccinations, as well as Kane Memorial came out and did the COVID testing. Their COVID testing team came out and tested 55 people. So we're excited about that. Our initiative is moving right along, and we're just trying to educate the community about the vaccine. We're not trying to make anybody take it, but we're just trying to educate that you would make an educated choice whether to take it or not to take it. So we're grateful that it's moving right along. We thank you for your support as well. So tonight, we have a great guest with us. We have Miss Jeannie Hill. She has so many firsts. We were talking to her before the program actually started, and we've learned more than what we thought we knew. So we're grateful to have her here tonight. So Jeannie, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Jeannie Hill, and I am been married for 47 years, live here in Bakersfield with my husband. Yes, he's still alive. And I have two sons, and I have five grandchildren. I have four granddaughters and one grandson. And I am really happy to be with you here this evening.
Oh, thank you, Jeannie.
Happy to have you.
Yes, we are grateful that you are here with us, Jeannie. Jeannie, I think she's just kind of quiet about what she's done for women in our community. She used to give a conference every year. I remember that so well with Miss Rosie Milligan. I remember that. So yes, and just some great conferences. Can you tell us a little bit about your conferences and why you held them?
Well, the conferences, when I was growing up, I grew up in a time when women and children were basically seen and not heard. And so I was always being heard at home. And I realized that part of what I wanted to do when I became an adult was to give a platform for women because we had suffered, Black women had suffered for a long time in silence. There were certain things that we didn't do or certain things that we didn't say. And so I wanted to try and give a platform, a safe environment for women to say and do what was on their minds and then to have fun. And so as I started giving conferences through the church and then sometimes out of town at various other churches, I tried to make that happen. And it was a wonderful experience for me. And I hope that it was a wonderful experience for the women that attended the conferences. We had lots of fun. We would sleep over and stay up all night and talk about any and everything. And have breakfast and lunch, and we just had a grand time. So I really enjoyed doing those conferences and opening up, like I said, safe environments for women to talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. And we had a variety of topics that were considered taboo at the time. But it was a great experience. I loved it.
Yes, it was. I attended those conferences, and they were very, very, very nice. And I thank you for leading the way in that, Jeannie. And I've talked to you several times about what it meant to me personally. Yeah. And I do appreciate you. I just wanted you to mention that. You're talking about something else, but I want you to mention that. So, against all odds is our topic tonight. Ms. Hill was our first Black Miss Kern County here in Bakersfield, and we're excited about that. And it was back in 1970, so we brought her on just to talk about it a little bit since we're celebrating Black History Month, and we wanted her to share with us. So we're going to go on with our questions. Tell us a little bit about Miss Kern County, the Miss Kern County pageant, and what the duties are of Miss Kern County.
Well, the duties I'm certain they have changed since I was Miss Kern County, but the duties were to be an ambassador for all of Kern County. And those kind of things where you were to be at the new openings, business openings in the community, special luncheons and dinners and fundraisers for nonprofit organizations, and to serve as a mentor to young women. And the process for Miss Kern County at the time was that there were 5 of us that decided to apply for Miss Kern County, 5 Black women, and that was unprecedented at the time in and of itself. But we met with a group of Black mentors, and we went together to fill out the applications to make sure that all of the T's were crossed and I's were dotted. And then we reviewed the applications and the Miss Kern County rules and expectations, and learned that the candidate that won would go on to Miss California. So then we talked about what was necessary to get us to that next step, what we would need to do. We talked about the practices and how we were all going to get to the practices. We talked about our talents and how to, hone in and sharpen those skill sets that we had. And then we made sure that as a group, we were prepared to do any and everything to succeed. So that's what we did in preparation for Miss Kern County.
Wow. I always wondered what they do behind those pageant doors. And I'm kind of looking at, is anyone out there? I want to make sure we're on, because Christine King is usually the first one and I don't see her at all. So I just want to make sure we are connected out there. It says you are live. Okay. All right. Perfect. Maybe she says something. Okay. I just want to make sure, Jeannie.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. We're live. Okay. So did I touch something else? Okay. So Jeannie, can you tell me a little bit about what prompted you to want to run for Miss Kern County?
Well, that same year, I had been involved in the Miss Black History pageant.
Okay.
And I was trying to remember if that was held at MLK or where it was actually held, but that's where it got started. I was involved in the Miss Black History pageant. And you may remember that the young lady that won Miss Black History that year, well, you don't remember, some of you may be too young, but it was Emma Brown, and she was a straight student. She was very smart, and she won Miss Black History that year. But at that particular pageant, there were a group of Black mentors that spoke to all of us after the pageant was over and encouraged us to run for Miss Kern County. Wow. And I won Miss Congeniality that year, but there wasn't a scholarship that went with that. Only Miss Black History got the scholarship. But what I wanted to do was to say those names of those Black mentors, because they were the first Black mentors, other than my mother. She was my very first. But there were other women in the community. And I know when I say these names, you ladies will remember them. I love and appreciate and respect them to this very day. And it was because they encouraged us. They were the type to pay it forward, and they stood vanguard over us at every step of the way. And it was Mary Patterson, Mary Tomlin, Lena Hughes, Josie Triplett, Jerry Spencer, Benny Ruth Jacobs, and Evangeline Miles. She was Dr. Miles' wife. Her name may not be as familiar, but she was Dr. Miles' wife. And so they encouraged us to try it, and they knew that's why they rallied around us, because they knew that it was going to be difficult, but it didn't mean it couldn't happen.
Right.
So that's how we all got to the pageant that year. And when we all marched in, we were a sight to behold. That was unexpected because there were 5 of us, and that was the first time that had ever happened.
Okay, so it was more than just you. I'm sorry. I didn't know
There
that.
were 5 of us. There were 5 of us.
Wow.
Yes, there were 5 of us that year. Felicia Jacobs, Gwen Gounselin. I'm trying to remember. Felicia Jacobs, Gwen Gauss. I can't think off the top of my head everybody, but there were 5 of us that year, including myself.
So were you 5 the first, or had there been others that had tried?
I don't recall that there were others that had actually applied. If they were, I recall.
Okay. Wow.
But that size of a group was truly a shock to Folk's system.
I bet it was.
With us all marching in at the same time.
Well, I tell you, that powerful team of women that you just called off their names, I know that they didn't play. Those were some awesome women, and they got it done.
Yes, they did.
They got it done.
And to this very day, I will never forget the experience that I had with those very powerful women.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I would, yeah, they were powerful, and they led Bakersfield. They
did, and they did not play. Linda, you're right. They didn't play. When they told you to be somewhere, they wanted you to be somewhere. And you know, they did they did teach us how to act. They taught us what to do and what to say. And so it was, needless to say, it was very beneficial because they were seasoned. They had been in the community. They had seen it and heard it. And so they were protective of us. They stood vanguard, and nothing and nobody was getting through that force.
Love it.
My goodness. My goodness.
Uh-oh.
I am sorry. Christine King is calling me. She's usually the first one. She's usually the first one. So Pam, can you carry on with the questions for me? Jeannie, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Miss Christine King is usually our first, and she hasn't come on. So I'm gonna see what's going on.
Yes, I checked and I didn't see anything.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, Miss Jeannie, I have another question for you. What were some of the challenges that you faced? I know you spoke of some, but what were some of the challenges that you faced being the first 5?
As I stated before, we had to make sure that all of our T's were crossed and I's were dotted, and make sure that everything was in place. But if I may, I can tell just a little backstory. My father was a Baptist minister, so I'm a PK.
All
right. And what came with being a TK was the expectation from the community that your behavior was flawless and you did nothing wrong. So I learned early on that I lived my life in a fishbowl, and everyone was always watching. Now, it was frustrating at first, but then I decided that the village eyes and ears and the grapevine, I needed to use that to my advantage. And so what I learned was to respect the community, our communal kinships, and the intricate communication that went through the neighborhood. Because I was raised in the projects, California and East 11th there. And so you learn how to respect the community. And my mother was a neighborhood mom, so I learned how not to let my name beat me home, because that's going to be a problem. And I listened to the wisdom of the elders in the community. You learn to respect each other, respect your community. And then one of the other things was that I learned to have thick skin and to never let folks see me sweat. I learned that because of the bullies that would chase you home in the projects, and you couldn't let them see you sweat or you were in big trouble. And I learned also that I had great examples of teamwork and impeccable leadership from the mothers in the community, because they all stuck together. And it wasn't necessarily born out of book smart, but it was out of common sense and experience. So when I got to Miss Kern County, those things were already in place. Those things were already in place, that tough, that tough skin and standing flat-footed and making a determination that you were going to move forward. So if I can just move to the day of the pageant.
Yes.
I can move to the day of the pageant. And so we had gone through all of the practices, and we were ready. And so we had gone through the swimsuit competition, which was the worst for me. I did not like the swimsuit competition. We had to do evening gowns, and I sang. And so I sang Alfie. And those of you that are old enough know that it was a Dionne Warwick, Burt Bacharach kind of sound. And so I sang Alfie. But we had heard had been so many remarks in the community about the five of us, and there was chatter about us not taking a place in the pageant because we had a young lady that was her dad was in the upper echelon of the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
Hobby, and we had heard that don't even think about it because she was going to win. And so I was on stage, and my self-talk had talked me into a zone, into a black hole of pitying myself and the rest of the young ladies that were there, because I thought all of these beautiful young ladies on stage were just as talented or more so than some of the other candidates that were there. And it was a shame that nobody would be getting any of the scholarships, wouldn't take a place. And so as they called the names, I did not hear my name. And so the young lady that was standing next to me shook me and said, you won, you won, you won. And so then I came to reality, and I looked out in the audience, and I saw my family and the Black community that was present. Everybody was screaming and celebrating. And then I happened to look over to I believe it was to the left side of the auditorium, to watch a mass exodus of the white audience leaving.
Whoa.
And so I was too happy and excited at that time for it to make a difference to me at that time. But later on, I understood, on the next leg of my journey, what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got through the evening, and part of what was promised for as part of the Miss Kern County Gifts and Educational Scholarship, there was a scholarship that was promised. There was also a wardrobe and various other gifts, and part of and an evening gown, and that was partly because if you won, you would go to the next step, which was Miss California. So you needed an evening gown. You needed outfits for all of the activities that were going to happen for the Miss California pageant. And so I was working. There was a huge department store on 20th and Chester. And all of you probably remember that department store that was on the corner of 20th and Chester. And I was working at that department store at the time. And the manager of the owner of the department store decided when I won that he wasn't going to give the gift. Now, I was working there. That was the ironic part.
Wow.
So he said no to giving the gown. Mm-hmm. And then the merchants that normally gave the wardrobe said no. And so the Kiwanis Club had to buy material and have a dress made for me. Mm-hmm. However, what happened with that was I did get my wardrobe eventually, but that wardrobe came with the efforts of the Black community. That same powerful group of Black women got together and put a T together through YMCA and raised funds for my wardrobe. And so did some of the Black churches. The Black churches joined in and did the same thing. Mm-hmm. But the donation of the gown never happened. The scholarship happened in a minute fraction. The clothes never came. Mm-hmm. But after the Black community rallied around me, I was dressed just like the best.
That's right.
On for anything.
Yes.
And so that what I didn't have or we didn't have money for, that same group of women went to their closets, and it chokes me up every time I think about it. And
yes.
I'm way old, and that happened way long time ago. But they went in their closets and pulled out dresses, they pulled out shoes, they pulled out purses, and finished off whatever I didn't have.
Yes.
That was really powerful.
Yes, community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so one of the other things that happened was I sang Alfie, and we had to submit, whatever your talent was, you had to submit. Like I had to submit my music, and Don Hicks was my pianist that wrote, that got the music together, that got my sheet music together. It was my friend Don Hicks, and so we got it sent off in time. And then it was probably about a week or so later, I found out that my music was lost. Now, was my music lost because it was never submitted? Or was it because when I got to the Miss California pageant, there was another young lady that was singing Alfie? She got to sing Alfie.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't quite sure which one of those things happened, but happened, music. So I had to learn a new song in 3 days.
Ooh.
I had to learn a new song in 3 days, get the sheet music for it, and get it sent up in 3 days. That was devastating. In that, trying to find a new song.
What song did you sing?
I sang "Here I Am." It was another Burt Bacharach song. "Here I Am," and it was a beautiful song too, but it just wasn't my Alfie.
So what do you think you gained from that experience, though? I mean, because it was awful, but you still triumphed.
Oh yes, I did. I did, but and I will tell you in just a second, but I want to finish telling you some of the other things that happened that probably a lot of people don't know. So that was basically what happened with going to the Miss California pageant. But what else happened was when I got back home, my life was threatened, and it was threatened almost on a daily basis.
Really?
And I was driving out to the Valley Plaza, and I thought I felt something or heard something hit my windshield. Later found out that someone had shot at my car. And also, we were downtown, and some of you may remember Piqueres that was on the corner. Yes, love the Piqueres shoes. But anyway, my mom and I had been shopping for some things, and I noticed someone following me. There was a guy following us. And so we finally got down to Piqueres shoes, and we ran inside, and I told them to call the police because someone was following me. The police came and told me they couldn't do anything because he hadn't touched me. I thought, okay. So at least they escorted me and my mom to my car, and we got out. But I was working at Brock's, and I noticed there was an orange pickup truck that was there for several nights when I got out. And he would follow me, and I would go different ways home. And I still lived in the projects at that time. But I finally decided, because I got really scared because it kept going on, I decided to tell my brother-in-law. And my brother-in-law started picking me up, and he saw the man in the orange truck. And so this particular day, and I tell this story, my brother-in-law, bless his heart, he's in heaven. But what he did was, it's what the kids would call your ride or die these days, because he brought his gun. And he didn't shoot his gun. All he did was hold it up in the window, on the side of the window. He held it up in the side of the window. The gentleman in the orange truck took off. And never to follow me home again. And then I went to a special party and with some prominent women in the community, and Nancy Reagan was speaking here at the time. And so I had to get up and make a presentation. And as I walked by one of these prominent women in the community, she looked up and I'm certain she wanted me to hear her. She just said, "Well, what do you know? She's attractive and speaks well." And I was young. And so that really hurt my heart, because what did she think? What did she think I was supposed to sound like? What did she think I was supposed to look like as a Black woman? And so that hurt my heart. And then one of the other things, there were a number of things that happened, but one of the other things that I will never forget either is I was at a garden fashion show, and I was there along with my entourage, the women that were part of the Miss Kern County pageant. And so I was doing my modeling, and I stopped at a table, and there was a gentleman there. And he looked up and he said, I heard that white women were easy. And he slid his hotel key over to me along with a matchbook cover with his information. And so I knew enough not to say anything that was going to get me in real big trouble, but I just looked at him and said, you heard the wrong information and I am not the one. And so I turned around and I walked off. But I remember later I went back and got the matchbook cover because I wanted to see who he was and I wanted to tell someone about what he had said and did. And so I kept it for years. And I think I did tell Lena Hughes about it. And I'm sure she moved forward with it, but needless to say, nothing happened. There was not anything that they were going to do. But one of the things that I thought that I remember, and I grinned every day or every time that it happened, was when I lived in the projects, whenever they had to come pick me up, my sponsor, my chaperone rather, she had to come pick me up. That limousine or her Cadillac, her black Cadillac, had to round that corner in the projects and pick me up. That was poetic justice for me, that they had to come in the project and pick me up. And she was a little bit frightened. Now, that same group of Vanguard women asked if I could have a black chaperone, and that was denied. They said no. They did not think it was necessary. It was a lot of pressure.
Yes.
It was a lot of pressure for me in terms of being the first, because it's not easy being the first. You're the one that folks try things on, and not only try things on, but say things too. So it wasn't easy. And I realized that I wasn't just representing myself. I was representing the Black community. That was the expectation, that I represented the Black community. And not that that was fair, because everybody's different, but that's what was put on my shoulders. And
Right.
so you ask, what I learned from that. And
Or even what would you like for other young women to have learned from your experiences?
what I would like for other young women to learn is that you can do anything that you set your mind to. There's always, and now there is so much support and help for you. What
Mhm.
you have to know is your why. You have to know your how and your why and your what. And once you answer those questions, then that will help you move forward in what you need to do. And there are so many mentors that are available out there, and there's so many resources for those young women, for you to be able to do whatever it is you set your heart to do. Follow your dreams. They know where they're going. You just need to be able to say, okay, I'm ready to go. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There's a little bit of fear when you're the first, or when you step out to do something out of your comfort zone. But step, because there's a way. When there, the adage that says, when there's a will, there's a way. Abso-positively. And there's so many women out here. Those of us that have gone before, we have a responsibility to pay it forward. We have a responsibility to reach one and teach one. We all know that. And so we're positioned and ready to do that.
Okay. All right. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that was good.
So the next question, and like you said, you were a first, and not only a first beauty pageant winner, but so many firsts here in Kern County. And so my next question for you, it says, not only did you become the first African-American woman to win the Miss Kern County, the title of Miss Kern County, but in 1994, you became the first African-American woman in Kern County to be employed as the first bank operations officer at Bank of America. And could you basically tell us about these first experiences for you?
Yes, I was working part-time in Bank of America,
Mhm.
and then I decided that I wanted to make a career. And again, my how and why and what, I wanted to. I had dreams of being a branch manager, and so I didn't have my education, all of my education at the time, but they did not necessarily require it back then. What they required was that you had experience and that there were specific classes that were offered to you for training, and you followed that training. And so I started off as a part-time teller, and then I moved into a position of utility. And Linda Factory may know what a utility is in the bank, and it's just someone that learns all of the positions so that you can fill in when someone is out. So I became a utility, and then I would ask my supervisors, okay, what do I need to do to get to be a supervisor? And so they would map it out to you and tell you what you needed to do to be a supervisor. And I did those things. And then when the promotions came up, they would post things, and I got to the promotions, and it would say, then I would ask about it, and then they would tell me, oh, well, you need to do just one more thing. And so I thought, okay, this is uncomfortable because these are the things that were listed, and you told me if I did those things, I would be considered for a promotion. And I knew I had the experience more so than some of the people that they were promoting.
Mhm.
Okay. And so the next time that I did that and someone came in with some additional responsibilities, I just said, okay, we need to have a discussion because these are the things that you told me I needed to do. I've done those. My performance reviews are good. I want to be considered for this promotion. And then please tell me if I don't get this promotion, please tell me why I didn't get it. Well, they really couldn't tell me why I didn't get it. So I was promoted to a supervisor. And then from that, I went on to become an operations manager. And same premise, followed the rules, did what I was supposed to do, and then looked them dead in the eye and said, okay, I'm ready, let's go. And so then finally became a branch manager. And one of the things that came with branch manager was back in the day, it was male dominated, and the bias was not overt; it was kind of implicit. Not only was the racial bias implicit, but female. So I went in with what I called the dynamic duo and a double bind because not only was I female me, but I was black female me stepping into those positions. And so I had challenges always with men that would come in and ask for the manager. And so one of the challenges for me was, first of all, I was woman me, and then second of all, I was black woman me. And so I remember there was a gentleman from a foreign country that came over to me and said he wanted to speak to the man. No, he came over to one of my supervisors and said he wanted to speak to the man in charge. And so she came over and got me. And when I walked up, he looked at me and he said, I want to speak to the man in charge. And I told him, I am the woman in charge. And if you need your problem resolved, you've got to start with me. Well, he didn't want to start with me, so he turned around and walked off. And I squared my shoulders, went back over to my seat and sat down and thought, if you're going to get this problem resolved, buddy, you've got to go through me. And then there were people that would come in that would tell me, I had spoken to them on the phone. They'd tell me, I didn't know you were black. You didn't sound black on the phone. And I thought, how does black sound? Could you? And I even asked one time, can you give me an example? And it was a little couple, and the man turned up 50,000 shades of red because his wife launched into trying to explain to me what sounded black over the phone. And I knew what she meant, but I wasn't going to let her off the hook. I wasn't mean and nasty, but I tried to use those experiences as a teaching experience for them, that it wasn't okay to say those kinds of things or do those kinds of things, to come in and say, the colored teller helped me. Well, ma'am, which color? We've got an array of colors on the line. We have pink and yellow and black and white. Which color? And so, then they would see how ludicrous or crazy, what they were saying or the questions they were asking me sounded. And so, like I said, I tried to use those those times to teach.
Right.
And then also,
And just to be clear, there was no union and there was no HR.
there
So
was no,
did you
there,
have a mentor?
the HR, there was no Black female mentor in Bank of America locally. But there were other Black female mentors that were in business that I consulted. And you're right, there was no HR in town. The HR was in the corporate offices. One was in San Francisco and one was in Los Angeles. And so those were not headed in, they didn't have, to my knowledge at the time, positions, leaders in high positions in HR that would understand my plight. And so a lot of things I tried to figure out by myself, look things up to figure how I should handle things. And so it was quite a learning experience for me.
Yeah.
And it was hard, like I said, to try to go to the corporate level, because who up there looked like me and could listen to me and understand what I was experiencing. So I had a lot of knocks, bruises and chinks on my shoulders and arms, but I made it.
Yes.
I made it. Came
Yes.
through.
Yeah.
And it was basically the same kind of experience when I went to the public transit system, but the racism and the gender bias was a little bit different because it was a little bit more overt. It was male dominated as well. And this was back 22 years ago, it was male dominated. And they dismissed, there were 5 of us, and there was one female, white female, and then me, that was in a management position at the time. And so she was invited a lot of times to the table, and I was not. I was told what happened afterwards. And then sometimes I even had to try to clean up what happened afterwards. And there was not an HR department, so I started the HR department from the de novo in. I started the HR department, and so brought everything together. But a lot of times, like I said, I was dismissed. I was not invited to the table until I started saying, my shoes fit under the table, just like her shoes fit under the table. Why am I not being at the table? Mm-hmm. And so really had no answers. But to show you how embedded it was in terms of male dominance, I was there for about 2 weeks, and then there was one particular male manager who wreaked havoc every place he went. And so he came to me and he said, I heard that you were the first Black Miss Kern County. And I just said yes, and I was guarded with my yes because I knew his reputation. And he said to me, that was probably a cross-burning experience. Now, who says that? Who says that?
And to your face.
To my face.
Wow.
And so I looked at him as I tried to keep the words from coming out of my mouth that I wanted to say. And because I just thought, you teach people how to treat you. And you don't respond. You keep your dignity and respect intact, and you don't respond. Because what I really wanted to do, and I'll tell you, I really wanted to just sock him in the nose and keep it moving. But I said to him, our conversation is done. I no longer have anything else to say to you. And I walked over and I went back over to my CEO to tell my CEO what happened. I'm not certain what happened with him, but I do know something did happen, because that was before our HR department was put intact and before I knew what I knew. Because if I had known what I know now, he would have had a real problem. But I knew something was said because he was not as rude, to me, and didn't say anything else to me in that manner.
Mhm.
So it was difficult because the inclusion, I had to fight every day almost to be included and not be dismissed with my ideas and my role as a manager. So both of those positions were very challenging, but public transit was more so challenging at first.
Right.
But before I left, I had an assistant, a Black assistant. I also was instrumental in hiring 2 additional Black women in 2 executive positions. So I was determined to change the face of our organization. Um, and hopefully, um, there will be changes after I'm now retired. And so hopefully there will be more changes. But you know, you can't you can't just sit on your laurels and think that I can't do anything. Yes, you can.
Mhm.
It just depends on what you decide to do. Because some of the lessons that I gained from my experience was you have to determine how to navigate those trenches. You know, you navigate those trenches and you got to have grit. You do. You just got to have grit. Uh,
Mhm.
you can't be a coward soldier. I used to tell myself that all the time. You can't be a coward soldier. And there were a lot of folks that did things and said things that were very challenging for me, but I had to also learn how to forgive them because I knew that that could get me stuck. And I knew that if I wanted forgiveness, I had to forgive them. And so because they tried to derail my career, but it didn't happen. If you can't find your place, you need to create one.
Right.
Because
Right.
not often will folks, just readily give open arms and give you a place. And then you have to lead. You have to lead in your position with civility and integrity and humility and with conviction that you have a job to do and you're going to do it. And then you leave a little bit of your light. Every time you encounter someone, and especially if you're being a mentor, you leave a little bit of that light with whoever you meet or teach, because you know what, if God is guiding you, then you're going to have plenty of light. Your light will never go dim.
Mhm.
You be obedient to your call. Find
Yes.
what your call is, and you be obedient to that call. And
Yeah.
you occupy and speak in a space that you've been given. Because if you sit and you're silent, you've been given a space. Every one of us, out of all of the billions of human beings on this earth, there's only one you. And we all have gifts and talents, but they're not the same. Pam, you may do the same thing that I have, the same type of gift that I have, but I do my gift differently than yours. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason that God made it that way, because everybody's gift is important. Your value, you bring that to the table because that's what he intended it to be. And know that someone is always watching you. We learned
Yes.
that on an early age. Someone's always watching you. So you have to be mindful of what you say. You have to be mindful of what you do. And not that you have to be on pins and needles, but you have to be mindful when no one's even watching, right? Because there's somebody watching. When you don't, they're watching always. And you own your own stuff. That's one thing I had to learn, is that I needed to own my own stuff. Because if I knew my stuff, then I knew not to allow you to give me yours.
Mm.
Mine was mine and yours is yours. So I learned how to give that back to you and not make it mine. That keep your sanity, that right? And the black girl magic is real. It's right here. Right here, right here in my face. Black girl magic is real. And you have to tap into that. Align yourself with folks that will celebrate you and your successes. And that helps you to want to have your best interest at heart. And that helps you to want to give back yourself. And you have we all have a responsibility. We
Yes.
do. Whether you want it or not, you have a responsibility. And so you have to learn for that. And then serve others with joy in your heart, because that's what you're here for. one of the responsibilities we have is to serve, right?
Right.
So you might as well do it with joy and keep it moving. Okay.
Woo. Ah. My. Yes, ma'am. That was powerful, and it spoke to me, and I thank you for that. Glenda, would you like to do the last question?
Sure, Pam. Jeannie, you know you've been an influence in not only my life and so many people's lives. You always give back to women, and you are a person that loves to empower women.
Yes.
You know that me and you've talked about a couple of things, but you love to empower women, and that's how you've always been. You've never changed. That has been your love, and even when you used to do the things for the young ladies, you used to teach them etiquette. You used to have etiquette classes. And, we need to have that again. We need to start those things up, because if we're going to empower them to be in places that they've never been before, etiquette is one of the things that they're going to need. So, yeah.
Well, Glenda, that was born out of my Miss Kern County experience.
Wow.
Because I would go to different places, and they would have the place setting laid out with all of the pieces.
Wow.
My mother didn't have all of the pieces, but she taught me what she could. And I did learn go from the outside in. But what I told myself was, because it was kind of scary for me sitting down at the table, I learned how to talk. I learned how to have conversation with the folks sitting at the table, and then watching what they were doing. And then once I saw what they were doing, then I followed what they were doing. But I told myself that I didn't want any other Black girl that I could touch, to be frightened. I wanted them to be able to sit down with kings and queens. It didn't matter where they went, because the internet wasn't as it is now. You could go to the library and look up those things, but the internet wasn't what it is now. But I was determined in my heart to teach what they do with all of those pieces, and to teach them, to expand on their experiences, and I took them on little excursions and trips, and exposed them to different types of foods, including caviar. Stuff like that, which some of them may never have been exposed to, but I tried to bring in foods. It was a challenge, and I understood that, because some of those things seemed really icky, especially when you explained to them what it was. And I got that, because it was icky to me too. But I wanted them to be exposed. But that was born out of, Miss Kern County, and kind of feeling less than or a little bit afraid when I did go to those things and I didn't know what to do. So I was determined to make sure that they would know what to do, and they would sit down and not, put their shoulders back and not be afraid.
Yeah, that's good. Our last question for the evening is well, something like that with the girls. What would you tell our audience about perseverance and determination when the odds are against you?
Well, what I would say about perseverance is that you should always stick to what works for you in terms of your person, your goals. Keep your commitments. Learn that it's okay when certain folks or groups are around. If you make them uncomfortable, that's not your problem. It's their problem. And I used to ask myself, why is it my problem? I was only one, and they were many. So I just kept stirring up the pot and mixing it, and hope that one day they got it, because I got it. I would say choose comfort over, choose growth over comfort. Um, if you fail, learn the lesson and get up. I remember my mom, and I'm paraphrasing, she used to say, you have 2.5 seconds to wallow in your what you call a failure. And then it's time for you to get up. You can smell it, you can kick it, you can do whatever you need to do to get through that. But then once you've done that, you need to discard that and keep it moving. And so that was really important. And that's what I still do to this day is look at it, put it right in front of me and look at it and think, okay, what do I need to do with this? And when I'm done, I'm done. That means I need to move to the next step. Create your own solutions. If you can't find one, then you be the change. Be the change that you want to see. Your vision needs to be bigger than yourself. And that's what I mean about, helping others, helping young women to come along. It can't be just about you because it isn't.
Yeah, that's right.
You were put here with certain gifts and talents that you are supposed to share and supposed to utilize to help others. You won't always be celebrated, so you need to learn how to celebrate yourself. You need to learn how to pat yourself on the back because, there will always be a hater or two or three or four. And so you can't get sucked into that. You celebrate yourself. And then I would tell myself all the time, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that can happen? I taught my children to always ask because the worst that could happen is somebody would tell you no. And so I used to think, okay, they told me no. And especially if it was something that I was convicted about or wanted to do, then I thought, okay, how do I get to my yes? You told me no the first time, so how do I get to my yes? So I would figure out how to get to my yes. And then I started changing what's the worst that could happen to what is the best that can happen. Because there are times that there are good things that happen, but because you're saying what's the worst that can happen, you have gone all the way past the best. And there are things good that can happen. And one of the things that I thought about too is that I would get in trouble for the things that I did, but I didn't even think about it being good trouble. And when John Lewis said, get into some good trouble, I think about that now. I got into good trouble, didn't even know what I was doing. But it was good trouble as far as I'm concerned. It was good trouble. And then I repeat to myself all the time. I repeat Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. You can't beat that. You cannot beat that. And then I read a quote the other day, and I thought, well, this is my mantra. It never fails you. It said, if you fail, never give up, because FAIL means first attempt in learning.
Wow.
End is not the end. In fact, END means effort never dies. And if you get a no as an answer, remember no. NO means next opportunity. That's wonderful. That
Opportunity.
sums it up, doesn't it? That kind of sums it all up. And then one other one, and I'll be quiet. One other one says, rise to the highest part of yourself by speaking to others through a place of truth, peace, and grace. Be positive and authentic. Don't be afraid to face your critics or get discouraged by the process. As sure as you live and breathe, there will be critics, but remember, out of rejection comes direction, and that momentary trouble it may cause is just a form of transportation to elevate you to where God wants you to be. Amen. Amen.
Nina, you are such an encouragement. You are. Always has been. Yeah, you just are. I
just got those two quotes. I said, oh, yep, got it. Tattoo it. So it has been an experience, but I thank God would not trade any of it. Some of it was difficult at the time, but there was a reason for it.
Mhm.
There was a reason that I went through it. There's a reason that you ladies have gone through what you've gone through, and everybody else. Because God didn't promise we were going to have trouble. He just promised that He would help you go through. And that's one thing I tell myself. He's a go through God.
Yeah.
And so you are determined to go through.
Mhm.
You know, you don't, the Israelites didn't build homes, they were going through. They didn't build mortar homes, right? They
Right.
didn't build mortar homes in the valley. They went through. So I tell myself, don't put any stucco up. Don't put a roof on it. Just, throw up a tent if you need to throw up a tent for a minute, and then keep it moving.
Keep
So
it moving.
we'll all go through. You
Mhm.
just have to own it, and speak in that space and live in that space for the time being, whatever space that is. So
That's good, Jeannie.
there you go.
You are excellent, Jeannie. Ladies, if you have any questions over here on our chat line, our chat line lit up. They must have been waiting for me to open that door. And actually, I apologize because our Facebook tag was off. Only the YouTube tag was on. So I apologize. So at the beginning, they weren't able to really hear about your Black history. I'm sorry, the pageant, being in the pageant for Miss Kern County, a lot of that. But when it came on, it flooded. It flooded. And everybody's on there. So if you have any questions, lady, please ask Jeannie. Jeannie is so easy to speak with. She really is. And she just makes you
Thank you.
feel at home when she talks to you. And she's an encourager. And I think one thing about having a gift, about being an encourager, you don't really know you are. It's just something you do. Somebody literally almost has to tell you that it's a gift that you have. And I think that's what we have with Jeannie, is that she just loves encouraging women, and that's just been in her. So here we go. Jeannie, have you ever been invited to be a judge for Miss Kern County?
One time, just once, and now they have several categories. They have a baby Miss Bakersfield. They have Miss Teen Kern County. They have a Mrs. Kern County. They have probably about 7 or 8 categories now. But twice. I take that back. Twice. I have.
Wow.
But years and years ago. Years ago.
Oh my goodness. You would think that, nowadays they would ask you more, but let's see. Do we have any questions, ladies? I know we're almost at the end. But you know what, Jeannie, I did want to go back over what you said about the ladies that came to your aid when you needed clothing for the Miss Kern County pageant, and how they got the Black community came together to make sure that you had everything you needed.
Yes.
And it just stands to what the community is about, and what community is about for us now. And of course, we've gotten away from that in some ways, and making sure that who's ever out there is supported and has exactly what they need. I was trying to see if we had any. Wow.
But that is crucial. But you have to open your mouth and say, I need.
Yeah.
You open your mouth. And there is always someone that will support you.
Yeah.
But you have to open up and say, you're in a space and you need to speak in that space so that space can be filled up for you.
Right.
And I really didn't have to speak in that space because they had already spoken. This group of women had spoken.
Wow.
And they spoke for me. And because they had gone before me and understood what my journey could be like.
Yeah.
And so I told you, like I told you, Glenda, that to this day, my heart just is still full. The way that, it was just like soldiers.
Yeah.
It was just like an army of soldiers that said, nope, she is not going to have lack. And they went to work.
That's
Jeannie,
good.
can you mention those names just one more time?
Okay. And I hope I don't leave out anybody. Mary Patterson, Mary Tumlin, Lena Hughes, Josie Triplett, Jerry Spencer, Benny Ruth Jacobs, and Evangeline Miles.
Yeah.
And if those of you
Powerful
that,
women.
yes, and those of you that went to the dentist, Dr. Miles, do you remember Dr.
I
Miles?
remember Dr. Miles.
Yeah, Evangeline was his wife. We called her Vanjie. She was his
Okay.
wife. And
Wow.
she was quiet and didn't say much. She worked.
Hmm.
She took care of business.
Wow.
You know, if you needed something, it was there on your doorstep. So those were the vanguards.
Yeah, that's good. We do have another question. We have, how do you know when Miss Kern County pageant is open for contestants?
You can go online. You can go online. They have a website, and you can go online. They tell you when they've opened when they've opened it up for applications. So
Okay.
go on,
Okay.
because that's how I found out that there were a bazillion different categories now. And,
Wow.
and I tell you, there's probably about 8 different categories now,
Mhm.
from the little bitty ones all the way up to a Mrs.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of categories now.
Okay. Wow. Trying to see if we have any more questions. We just have a lot. They're just all commenting. Everybody just commenting. They've enjoyed themselves tonight. Okay, that's good. That's good. You have somebody that's spoken some different type of language. If you can't find this place, you need to create one. That's good. I'm looking at me just reading them. That's all. They all sound good. But they're all empowering comments that these ladies have on the side. Maybe I should read a couple to you because I'll read that. Deborah says, "Forgiveness is for you. It sets you free." Kalisha Huggins. I hope I'm saying it right. If you can't find your place, you need to create one. Sherry Belk says, "So much of your principles remind me of your mama, Mary Hodge."
Yes, she was a neighborhood mama.
I love what you said. This is Vicki Kemp. I love what you said. I was guarded with my yes. That's good. Brenda Cooper. That's good. Own your own stuff. Own your own stuff. Jeannie, I love your transparency. All the golden nuggets. Yes, we need that. Janice Scott. Lynn O'Neill. I used to love the classes.
We had fun.
Raquel, what's a word? Why is it my problem? Huh. Right. If everything is comfortable, where is the room for faith? That's a good one, Raquel. Where is the room for faith? Marie Ruffin, choose growth over comfort. She likes this. Yes, empowering. Amen. Let's see what else we have here. No, you can't beat that. Oh, a lot of hand claps. This is awesome. Thank you for sharing. Jeannie, have you? Okay, we already listened to that question. Black history, great question. And by the way, when I ran for Miss in the Black History pageant, I was Miss Congeniality as well. No money.
No,
Huh?
I said no money,
No money. No
no
money.
scholarship.
How many Black women have been Miss Kern County?
I believe there's been Kim, and I'm trying to brain fade. I'm trying to think of Kim's last name. I believe there have been 2 after me.
Kim Austin?
Kim Austin.
Kim Austin.
Oh, yes, it's
Yeah.
Kimberly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Jeannie, have you ever thought about writing a book? Because you've got a word. And
Yes, ma'am, I have, and I thought about it years ago, but I allowed life to get in my way. But I just started writing probably about 2 months ago. And I'm an English major, English literature, and I love to write. And so I have already written a couple of inspirational poems, 3 of them. I have also started my Miss Kern County story. I've started my Miss Kern County story, but I'm adding to my Miss Kern County story.
Mhm.
So I am back writing. Now that I'm retired,
Yeah.
I'm back writing.
We need it. We need it.
And
Yeah.
I am enjoying
Get a word.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I really am enjoying it. And that there's all that stuff that was in the way. At least I put it in the way. You know,
Mhm.
I did. I cluttered up stuff, but I'm trying to unclutter my mind and take out the noise, and and I have found also that when I sit and I meditate, and if I'm writing and I open my mind and ask God to help me with my thoughts regarding that particular piece, that when I'm quiet, it happens.
Yeah. Wow.
When I'm quiet, it does happen. It's when I'm noisy that I get nothing.
Mhm.
But I'm enjoying this. I really am enjoying this. And at first, Pam, I was really afraid to put it out there because I was afraid who's going to read it. You write it, but who's going to read it? And when I did put stuff out there, someone would say, "Who wrote it?" I wouldn't raise my hand to say I did it out of fear, and it was so crazy. Why not?
Mhm. Mhm.
But I'm no longer afraid, because what I have learned is that whoever it's meant to bless, that will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
And
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the blessing. You blessed me already tonight. So I'll be that person to buy and to read.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm headed forward again on the next leg of my journey.
All right.
Good for you, Jeannie. Well, thank you so much for being our guest tonight.
You're
We
welcome. I
appreciate
enjoy
you.
it. Thank you for asking me.
Yes, ma'am. You dropped those nuggets on us tonight.
Always.
You empowered us to move a little bit further.
All right.
We
Good.
thank you so much for being with us, and we want to thank our audience tonight as well for being online and for waiting for us to come on, and so you could so you can hear what Jeannie has to say. We thank you so much. I mean, it lit up. So we're grateful for that. We thank you always for your support and what you do for No Sister Left Behind. We have our second health fair coming up, which is in March. It's March the 19th. It's a Saturday from 11 to 3 at the MLK Park once again. And we're excited because of the success of the first one. We're looking forward to the second one. Again, I want to thank all of our volunteers and all those that come out and support. If you shared a word, prayed for us, whatever you did, we thank you so much, because it was a success and we're grateful for that. And while I'm on that subject, let's see. I also want to announce that I was trying to find a flyer, but next Saturday is the Kern County Black Chamber event. For 20 years. They've been around for 20 years. I didn't realize it had been that long until I saw the flyer, but it's been around for 20 years. And so go on to Facebook. I don't know exactly the number you need to call, but support them, the Kern County Black Chamber. And so that's next week. And it's going to be great, because when Jeannie mentioned it to me when I called her, and I said, we need to start saying some announcements about those things. So yes, please support. It's next Saturday, February the 12th, and it's going to be at the Marriott at 801 Truxton Avenue. Go and support. So we thank you so much for joining us tonight. If there's not any more questions, Jeannie, did you have anything to say, or you want to close out? Or?
Well, I just want to encourage everyone to, like I said, be present in your space, speak in your space, do what you have been assigned to do in your space. No one can do it like you can do it. And your gifts and talents are needed at the table. Put on your stilettos, your flats, whatever it is that you have, and walk in the room, because now is the time. Now is the time, because we have beautiful, educated Black women, and you no longer have to fight the kind of fight that I have to fight. And
Right.
now part of what I was hoping to do was to clear some of the underbrush, that, when I thought about it, was to clear some of the underbrush. You didn't have to fight as hard to get into those positions. And there have been women before me. There are women now and women in the future that will continue to do the same thing. But you can walk into a room now with your education intact, with your intellect intact, with your thoughts and your goals and your talents intact, and you go sit down at the table. You don't have to wait to be invited. And if they don't have a table, you make your own table.
Yeah.
They don't have a table for you, you make your own table. Sit down and then tell them to sit down at your table.
Yeah.
There you go. Tell them to sit down at your table if you're not invited to theirs. Build your own table and you sit down at your table and invite folks to sit down. So ladies, go for it. Don't be afraid. You have God in front of you. He goes before you and he sets everything up for you, and you just have to walk in it.
Yeah.
You have to square your shoulders. I always say, square your shoulders, put your head back and walk in it. So do that, ladies. It's just waiting for you.
Well, thank you, Jeannie. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Ladies, we are after 7. It's 7:10, and we thank you for hanging in there with us. Jeannie is an encourager, and if we ask her something right now, she's going to talk on it because she just loves. That's what she does, and we're grateful for her. But anyway, we thank you for joining us tonight and being here.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jeannie, and thank you to our audience. We thank you so much. God bless you all, and have a great night and a great rest of your weekend. Thank you so much.
Good night.
All right. Good night.
Thank you.
God bless you, Jeannie.
Thank you. Blessings to you
Thank
all.
you so much.